Hello, welcome. This is the first ever episode of Chew the Chat podcast with me, your host, Sam Souls. We are brought to you this week, we're sponsored by Go Deep Flotation. So flotation goes something like this, in our busy, fast-paced lives, the culture that we find ourselves in, it's hard to stop and just relax. We're just constantly stimulated, constantly got input, engaging, interacting, processing. And as technology grows, with our connection to each other, it's important we don't disconnect with ourselves. And flotation therapy, it allows the passenger to turn off, relax, pause all the external stimuli, allowing the brain to recalibrate. All of the stress levels, cortisol levels normalise. We just promote a relaxed, happy, clear state of mind, and you get a chance to stop and remember you, which is important these days because life is fast. It's groundbreaking therapy, and it's still being tested for all of its benefits because literally they seem limitless. I mean, it seems ridiculous, really. You lay in some warm water for an hour, still, no sight, no sound, no touch, no smell. And the benefits, as science is proving year on year are just limitless at this moment, it seems. So you're literally just pausing your life and MOTing your psyche. So, if you're listening to this podcast, you can use the code CHEW when you book in with a Go Deep. Receive 10% off your float experience and find your nearest float centre and go and float with Go Deep Flotation. Check them out, www.godeepflotation.com. Awesome. Okay, so today's first ever episode is recorded with special guest Matthew Frost. Now, Matthew is a super intelligent guy, really colourful life, a punk rocker, a traveller, a sort of musical traveller, in the sense of, putting on the sound systems back in the late 80s through the 90s. Lots of brushes with the law, that punk DIY ethic, always seeming to be at the forefront of his next move, determined to see things through, very driven, and if he decides he's going to do something, he's going to do it. And this is one hell of a colourful chat, and I think we're going to split this into 2 episodes because I guess I'll give you some insight to Chew the Chat. Essentially, Chew the Chat podcast is my fascination with lives, ordinary lives, you don't necessarily need to be a superstar or someone in the spotlight, everybody's got a story, and it's interesting to peel back, the layers that we find ourselves operating in, on the surface of our lives and getting down into some really interesting aspects of people's lives, and namely childhood. I'm personally fascinated by childhood and how childhood has a big hand in shaping us and shaping, trajectory often for us. And sometimes completely not. Sometimes it defies everything. So I guess it's a kind of therapy for me. Try and work your own bullshit out. So Matthew's also the founder and owner of Function First Martial Arts Academy. And as his story unwinds, that punk ethic that he has is kind of the foundation and the philosophy of the academy. There's over 300 members there. He's got flotation, Lincolnshire float therapy there as well, and he's got the cryotherapy, and it's fast becoming a hub for well-being and sports recovery. So, Matthew's, this conversation is it's going to go all over the place, and we're going to break it into 2, as I said. So, without further ado, we will crack on with the first ever episode of the Chew the Chat podcast, episode 1 with Matthew Frost. See you on the other side.
Welcome to Chew the Chat podcast.
A bit fragile, and my voice is. You've changed.
I know, yeah.
Like literally changed. So you're in the middle of your floating experiment.
Day's this? Day 13 today.
How's that going?
Really good.
How are you feeling?
I'm having some... It's gone through some stages. So like day 1, 2, 3 was sort of what I expected because I'm a regular floating routine. And then it's then day like 4, 5, 6, whatever it was. I'm losing track of days, to be honest. But I got massively overwhelmed with thought processes. And it was like my brain was being squeezed. And it was intense. It was really intense. And it seemed to go on. I was in there for an hour. I set the timer for an hour each time. And I was like, this is going on for hours. The actual intensity of it was like too much. Too many thoughts. Just couldn't just doing my head in. And then the music comes on at the end, like it does. And I know there was another part of me that was like, oh, it's over. It was like I just blinked. So there's like 2 timelines going on. I was in 2 different timelines, and I was like, that was strange. And I got out that day, and that was just, I was beat up. I felt like I'd been beat up. I was done. It would wipe me out. Similar experience the next day, and then that's calmed down. It's like my brain's on, right? Like, because I've been on such a workload for the last year. It's like my brain just went unloaded. And then, now I'm getting into mind-body separation. Like yesterday, I laid there and I was just talking to my limbs, and they were moving where I thought it was bizarre. Paula was, I got the same reaction off Paula, my girlfriend. Yeah, she was just like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was telling my left arm to go up, and it was going up, and I was just laid there watching it going, and I was laughing myself in the pod. I was like laughing, thinking, "This is just ridiculous. How does this benefit my daily life?" I was like, "It doesn't, but it's fun."
Yeah. Well, it's amazing. I mean, I had a float on Sunday. I've started to do 90 minutes now. And I try and get once a month because it seems about as rational, that I can make the time and be consistent with it. And I seem to have found, certainly the last 3 or 4 in a row, I felt really still. Like, and I don't know if it's breathing. I've been working on my breathing, doing yoga a lot, and I've noticed that how much that's, because you used to say, right, focus on your breath, and I kind of could feel myself trying to find my breath to focus on it, whereas now I just notice that I'm breathing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like whatever the mind is,
an effort to do it. Yeah.
I'm just finding myself doing it, and then I'm kind of relaxing into it, as opposed to trying to, I've got to get to there, and then and then the thoughts are crashing in and crashing away.
I think the thing with the float is, I think that that mindfulness, focus on your breath thing, I think that's really useful. But in the float, I find it really noisy because I'm focusing on my breath, and then I'm hearing it's like there's no sound, and it's like going in through your nasal cavity. It's like it's like really loud. I'm like, I'm going to focus on something else. It's too noisy.
Have you had any darkness sort of feeling in there yet? And I mean darkness as in like presence.
No, I've had some really negative thoughts and memories that I really didn't wish I had, but there was a couple of memories I was just like, oh my God, I actually did that. What a truly awful person.
And when you talk about the memory ones, have you had the memory ones where they're like, it's fucking just HD 8K, like razor sharp, like like almost like you're just pulling it from
downloads. Yeah. And overwhelming thought processes, trying to keep up with the thoughts sometimes, and then it's just the pace changes.
And what day are you on now?
13.
You're
13
getting
today.
on for halfway through.
I'm gonna up. I might up it to an hour and a half tomorrow. It does seem to be going too quick. I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm really enjoying it, and it's a weird luxury privilege type.
God,
to be able to do that in it. So
but it's great for us, people like me who love floating, and obviously. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll introduce you.
All right.
We've got Matt Frost today, who is the founder, owner of Function First Martial Arts Academy, and many other things that we're going to discover today. And at the minute, as we're discussing, you're doing a 30-day
float.
30-day float.
Not all at once.
Well, you've just installed the apparatus at the academy.
Yeah, late August last year, we installed the float alongside the cryo, and I've been meaning to do more floats since I've put it in, but I've been busy, and then I thought, right, New Year, like everyone, New Year's resolution, I'm going to do it, and I dug in, and it's fascinating. I'm really enjoying it.
So you're on day 13. You're looking to do 30 in a row, and just sort of, and you're doing these little 3-minute or so diaries of it, aren't you?
Yeah, straight after, and that's interesting in itself, because when I get out, after the first few days, I was like, I'm going to have to do these little clips tonight. When I've thought about it. And then when I thought about that, I was like, no, actually, it puts me on the spot. I put the camera in my face when I get out, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I don't even know
who I am.
So what happened? How do I explain that? Yeah, there's no words. It's like and it's like, and then something that sounds so pathetic that was so profound when you're in there. It's like and trying to explain it, it just sounds like, oh right, you made your arm move. But when
but for someone like myself, and I'm sure the people who've been catching him and watching him who's got some floating experience, it's there's a sanity that comes. It's like fucking we can't quite find the language.
Yeah.
But I feel like I know what you're expressing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like you said earlier, like, there's so many different elements to the floating. Have you had the creative ones yet, where you feel like you need to just fucking write stuff down and don't let that go, and it's just coming.
Well, yeah, but with so I went to train jiu-jitsu with a guy called Tom Barlow down in Cambridge on, what day is this? Yeah, Thursday. And so when I floated Thursday night and then today, and I was just overwhelmed with the information, and that was like, oh yeah, then this, then that detail, this, and just detail after detail. Like you say, I wanted to write it down, be like, I'm in here, no, write it out, and then you get
but it's going in, isn't it? It's obviously loaded into somewhere.
And I feel like I'm going through, I guess it's the dynamic meditation type visualization, but I'm going through the moves in my mind, and then I can feel all my body twitching and trying to do the moves as I'm thinking it through, and it's trying to sort of simulating it in its own little way. So yeah, maybe the firing together and wiring together, and
it's fascinating. It's great to watch, like I say, watching these little diaries, because it's a real insight. And I think, what's it been like? What's the floating client base sort of started like? Is it guys from the gym who are looking to just get the repair and the?
No, completely. Yeah, not that at all. Which is what I expected too. Getting like one guy comes. Well, his kid trains with us, but he goes on 10-day meditation retreats, silent meditation retreats, and he'll come and he'll do 3-hour floats. And he loves it. Yeah, he just gets out and he's not got anything to say when he gets out. Like, how was that? And he's just like, I'll speak to you later. And wanders off like kung fu into the distance, barefoot. It's awesome. But yeah, he's doing 3-hour floats, and I get people with, like, doctors are sending people with OCD. I didn't know about that myself. I was like, because I ask, why are you here? It's like, the doctor sent me, said it's good for OCD. I was like, oh right, not heard that. Right. So yeah, I get that. People for creativity. I do get a guy comes along and uses it for creativity in his job, finds it useful. So yeah, a real wide range of people. Yeah.
Has Paula done it yet?
Yeah, she loves it.
Yeah.
And Joe, my brother, he loves it.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
So yeah, he's I put it every Saturday, and can't get him out. He falls asleep in there, and I have to go wake him up, Joe.
And what was the process like? You've got isopod. Is it an isopod?
Yes.
So did the guys sort of come up and sort of set you up, or do you just take the pod and?
They came, yeah. So I'm trying to think. It was such a crazy time. I was having so much stuff turn up at the same time. So they're only made up the road, aren't they? I don't know. Yeah, they're made in New York Village. And my mum told me, went, you're buying a float tank? And I was like, yeah. She went, they make them in New York Village. I was like, yeah, of course they do. Yeah, right, yeah. And then the truck turned up on the back. I went, where have you come from, mate? New York Village.
Wow. Is that right?
Yeah. It's the fiberglass casting place there. So they make them there, which is where I used to go to school. So I was like, it's this little village where I went to school near Boston. So they make the casts there. So they just came delivered over, and then a guy from Isopod come up and plumbed it up, showed us how to use it. And it's fairly straightforward. It's quite high maintenance, actually. There's a lot of maintenance with it. Way more than the cryo. The cryo's like, I don't know, it's like a big iPad. So Tesla.
So with the, we'll jump onto the cryo in a minute, because that's fascinating. I've only done it once, but it was, we'll get to that. So is it with a filtration system and stuff then? Because obviously people, when I've spoken to them about floating, they're like, well, a bath with a lid on and and everybody goes in it. And I'm like, well, yeah, but it's got a filtration system, and there's, God knows how much salt in it, a lot of Epsom salt. But it's filtered, and you shower before and you shower after. So people got a little bit spooked, and then a lot of people I speak to kind of get the impression of being claustrophobic. Yeah. That's the most common thing, is claustrophobic, and then another thing is hygiene. That's the number two things with people. And the third, actually, somewhere in there, I don't know, is people don't like spending time with themselves. A lot of people are like, I don't spend time. Yeah, number one and two are good to say.
Yeah,
I don't like the idea of that. I get but it's hard work. Yeah. It's hard work if you sort of allow yourself to whatever be, as it all comes.
Yeah, you're going to face some things, aren't you?
Yeah, totally.
That's why I like it. It's good. It's interesting. But yeah, I mean, the filtration system's incredible in that. It has UV filter lights. It has peroxide injections after every Sometimes someone gets out, so it injects peroxide rounds, cleans it through the filter about 100, every single bit of water in there goes through the filtration system dozens and dozens of times, and you can't, if you split a hair 100 times, it won't go through the filtration system. It has a peroxide injection, like I say, then it has these UV filter lights, it's got 600 kilograms of salt in it, it's got all these different checks and balances, it's like super clean. And we clean it afterwards as well. We go in and clean everything through. And like you say, you have a shower before and after. So that's, some people are concerned about that. But if you go in a swimming pool, if you've ever been in a swimming pool, I did a scuba diving course up at Yarborough, and I went to the bottom of that pool and swam along with a mask on. If you have ever swam in a swimming pool, you've got no problem.
Yeah. And we kind of forget that, don't we? We just, we're jumping in the pool with all the little kids.
Yeah, everyone's normal.
Everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. No kids use our pod. That's all you need to know.
Okay.
That's it. If anyone says hygiene, you go, it's all right, no kids use it.
Yeah,
it's like
absolutely.
You swim in a pool. And then the other one, claustrophobia. Loads of people that's a concern, but and I understand it because Paula was claustrophobic. Like if she came in here and you close the door and turn the lights down, she could be a bit panicky in this room. To that level. But because the pod is like you get in it, you open and close the door, you turn the light on and off. It's like you're in control of everything. So I don't think it makes sense to most people. But I always say, if you're a passenger in a car, you've just got in a metal box going down the road at 80 miles an hour with someone else driving behind a sheet of glass and an engine with an exploding factory in front of your face, and you've got no control whatsoever. And if that feels normal to you, and lying it in a floating tank of water that's like warm, soft, cuddly, and you're in control of every aspect. The two things.
It is, and with the isopod particularly, as I understand it, it's like one of the premier versions of the pods, globally. Yeah. Because the ones over in the States, they seem to be they do look a bit spooky, don't they? Those big chambers.
The walking ones, yeah.
And there seems to be a hell of a lot of mechanical action piping in and out, and it looks like a walk-in skip.
That's right. Yeah, they do.
You open like a hatch door on it, and I mean even the ones that is it Crash, the guy, Float Lab in California, kind of one of the pioneers.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
They rave about the technology, but to look at them,
they're not inviting, are they?
No, they don't look so. No. Whereas the isopods look like a little futuristic orb thing, don't they?
I've used them out in Vegas. When I'm in America, I go to America a couple of times a year or once a year.
Yeah.
I use them out there, and it's mostly isopods, but I have seen lots of them as well. And lots of rooms as well are becoming popular, aren't they? Like a jacuzzi almost in the middle of a room. That's quite open, quite spacious. That looks quite nice.
Yeah, that's a different element. So, at the same time, then you were having cryo brought in at the academy.
Yeah,
and that's a whole similar kind of mindset of use of therapy and fixing, but it's a different thing entirely.
Yeah, very. Yeah, the two. Yeah, they're like yin and yang, I guess, of the healing world. I don't know. It's I mean, I got that. I just went all out. I said to you earlier when I was talking to you before we started recording. I was saying, my life was ticking along very easily. The business was running really well. I was sort of getting bored. So I bought this house as a project to work on to push me out my own comfort zone. And I needed a challenge. And 6 months in, it wasn't that much of a challenge, the house. So I was sort of enjoying it too much. Now, that probably sounds really odd, but it just wasn't, you know what I mean?
And this is an old place, like a kind of a farmhouse, and you're digging up floors. You're not just putting a lick of paint on.
Oh, no, it's major. No electric, no heating. The windows were all rotted out. It was like, I've been living in a caravan in the garden for a year. It was a proper, it hadn't been lived in for 20 odd years. And it was, but it's beautiful. And I was enjoying it, like thoroughly enjoying every moment. And I upped my training. I was still continuing my training because it's closer to the academy. I had a few more hours of not travelling. And about 6 months in, I'm like, I didn't feel challenged enough. And I wanted a challenge. I hadn't had a good, real, kind of can't compete anymore. I'm 51 and all the people I train.
You wouldn't know that, Mark, looking at you.
Thank you, Sam. And they compete, and I corner them, coach them, go compete, and that's their challenges, and it's nice to be part of all that, but I don't get my own challenges in that area so much, although I am competing in jiu-jitsu later this year. But so I just went, I've been on about getting a float tank for years, and I was going to put one at the new house, but it was a building site, it looked like, it's a bomb site. I was like, I can't put it here. Let's just do it. Let's just get one now, because I can make all the excuses for the next 2 years. We're doing the house, we're doing this, and da-da-da. So I just went, right, we'll get the float tank. And I went up to visit a friend in Manchester to train some BJJ, and they got a cryo unit fitted. And I was like, I thought they would like for billionaire football clubs.
Yeah.
Out
of reach.
Sort of are, yeah. And I was like, how the hell did you afford that? And he, I was talking to him, and he made me go, I can.
That's
get one of
achievable.
it. Yes, I'm going to do that. Yeah, because you have to listen to your own bullshit as well. Don't you? If the kids say to me on the mats, or there's some of my students like, I can't do that, and we're going to Thailand next year on a trip. No, I can't afford it, and I'm always like, wording it wrong. You're wording that wrong. It's like, how can I afford it?
Yeah.
And I was going, I can't afford the cryo unit. And
Yes.
then I went,
Heed your advice.
yes. And I went, right, yeah. I mean, I had to kick myself up the backside. And I thought, right, I'll do it. And I planned it out. I thought it through my head, did the numbers, crunched the numbers, and got the cryo unit. The reason I wanted the cryo unit was because I looked into dementia runs in my family. My dad died just before Christmas. We buried him last Monday.
Oh, bless you. I didn't know that, Mark.
No. So it's as far as those things go. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, and my grandma, so it's a bit in the lineage. And I started looking into it because when my dad got it, I was like, "What is this dementia? This is weird." I thought it was just memory loss. And he's trying to put a big spoon in a little cup, and I'm watching him like he doesn't understand the spoon don't fit in the cup. And then he was like, "Why is it dark outside?" And I'm like, "Well, it's night time." I was like, "That's not memory. What's going on here?"
Yeah.
So I started looking into it and started finding out that we don't know a lot, obviously, but some of the things we do know, as far as I understand, and the studies I read, were like inflammation. And inflammation just kept coming up, inflammation. And then I started finding out it was connected to other things like arthritis and this and that and all these other different ailments. So I was looking, well, what can help with inflammation? And diet was number one.
Mm-hmm.
And then cryotherapy just came coming up all the time. Cryotherapy. And that's why I made the decision to get it. It just so happens they're in a gym and get a good...
It all fits.
It all fits, perfect, yeah. And then so at the same time as the flow, I thought, right, let's do it. Let's go for this. And I found my challenge.
Yeah, okay.
I definitely...
Interesting.
Was twitching for a little bit. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it pushed me right out of my comfort zone.
So, have you been using... I mean, you mentioned before you've started floating a lot now this new year. You weren't having so much time before. Have you been using the cryo? Because the cryo is a lot quicker. I mean, for people listening, how long are you in a cryo for?
3 minutes. It's a capitalist dream, Sam.
Yeah.
Straight back to work.
Yeah. Straight on.
Yeah, off you go.
Yeah.
No, it's fantastic. And I didn't expect some of the results we're getting from it, and the feedback, I didn't expect at all. So for me, it was long-term health, longevity. Because even when I train hard, I get bruised and knocked about and aches and pains, but it doesn't bother me that much, to be honest with you. So people were using it. Athletes started turning up. Lincoln City Football Club started turning up. They started using it. They still use it regular. Send their players over. But then people, one girl who was using it, and I said, I always ask, what feedback? How did you get on last time? I hadn't seen you for a couple of weeks, and she was like, my psoriasis went. And I'm like, hey, oh, right, okay.
Skin condition.
Yeah. I was like, well, that's weird. And then another guy came. This guy's he's like a foot soldier for us. He's the best advocate for cryo. There's two, actually. One of them, he joined the club since. He said, I was depressed for several years. I've had no motivation. I've just come to see if it gives me a kickstart. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Everyone try it, fine. Because I think everyone should try it anyway. So for whatever reason, just try it. It's weird. It's like minus 180 degrees. You have to go to Neptune for that. It's 4 billion miles away. So it's like, just try that.
Again, it blows people's minds, though, doesn't it? Because when I've spoken to people, as soon as you got it, I was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. And it took me a while to get to you because of life and all the rest of it. But once I came down and I had a blast in it, it was a weird kind of...
Did you get the chemical done afterwards? Did you feel a high or a low? Or
I felt... I can't really describe it. I think I did feel high, yeah. I felt like how do you describe it? I slept fantastically.
That's the number one
And
feedback.
from floating, I'm used to that because you sleep well from floating, although sometimes I have a bit of a spin out, actually. But on that, I was just like, there was a stillness to me. I don't know.
Yeah, that's number one feedback is sleep. But then random, like this lad, he, depressed and no motivation at work and self-employed, and he's turned his life around. He joined up, signed up. He had a fight. He won his fight. Like eight weeks training, won it, and went for his first fight.
So he joins and then goes in the fight team, and he's on.
He's on it. He's there like 3 hours a day every day. He's not been there.
Oh, what a lovely story.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing. And it's like, and he's telling everyone, the Lincoln City lads are coming in, he's going, you should do this more often. He's like giving everyone loads of childbirth. And he's like, I'm here 3 times a week. And he absolutely loves it. And then there's one other guy that always sticks in my mind, and he's not used it since, and this is the best complaint ever. He's one of our students, and He used it, and he's quite very serious guy. And I see him about a week later, and I said, how did he go? How did he get on? And he was deadpan face, dead serious, and he said, I've been giggling at work for a week at my desk, and I haven't stopped giggling at nothing. And I looked at him, and I was like, is that a complaint? And he went, well, I didn't know if I was going to go back to normal. and I was like, that's the best complaint ever.
Yeah.
I was like, thank you. I was like, how dare you make me happy for a week? I was like, but that was brilliant. But he obviously, his desk felt uncomfortable, and it wasn't the best for him because I'm very serious. He works at a mortuary, but, that's a joke.
Well, that's something, again, that I want to bring into my monthly schedule, because that's interesting you mentioned about the dementia, because a lot of what I try to apply to my everyday lifestyle is just preservation. Do you know what I mean? Trying to just, I'm not crazy for it. I'm not, I'm not sacrificing living, as it were, because you can get a little bit, refined.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting to know that, because the cognitive fall apart, the dementia, that's really scary. And if you've seen that firsthand as well, and as you mentioned, some of those sort of anecdotal things you saw there, it's not dark out. Like, that's just bizarre. You can almost imagine wires just...
Yeah, it's insane, isn't it? It is. Because the clarity of thinking for me, so the reason that my first few times in the cryo sent me all over the place, I was like, because I did it 2 or 3 times because I was testing it out the first day. And I was like, it was like someone had spiked me drink. It was like I wanted to run a marathon and have a fight, but I wanted to go to sleep at the same time. I didn't know what to do with myself, so I went home, went to bed, and I just laid down. I was like, oh, that was weird. I hope no one, I hope that's not what everyone gets. And
what have we done?
I know, because you get a big chemical dump afterwards, and I was just like trying to deal with this serotonin and endorphin dump that was huge for me. And after a couple of times, I got that a little bit the next time, but then it settled down, and now I just get such clear, focused thought, and I wake up the next morning, and I'm carrying on doing my normal routine in the morning that I normally do, and then all of a sudden I have to stop and go, oh yeah, it's different, isn't it? And I feel times there's more presence in the moment, and I just feel really focused. Nothing seems to be able to wobble you. You feel real mentally tough, but clear and focused. That's quite addictive.
So what temperature so we're in there for 3 minutes. What kind of temperatures are you what are we hitting? So
this is also an interesting thing. I tried a few other cryos around the country, and they all took me to minus 180, which is the coldest it can go, because the liquid nitrogen sits at 190, and then the conversion rate into gas, you lose some. And I even went to the place where I bought mine from, the showroom, and used theirs twice. And it was nice and absolutely fantastic experience. Went to sleep, fell in the park in Manchester, woke up in the middle of the park. And I was like, I was supposed to be going to a seminar. I was like, oh God. And so it's really nice. But we got mine delivered, and they said, oh, we've just upgraded the tanks, and it's got a sealable lid on it. And that's all. That's the only difference, little plastic lid that seals on the tank. And you can't get it over 155, 160. I've tried. I tried it on me, and it just burns you. It's too intense. It's absolutely insanely cold. And so I put most people in around 140 to start with, 130 to 140, and then take them up to about 150 if they respond well. So after 2 or 3 goes, like some of the footballers will come, I'll put them in at 150. But because some of the footballers, they'll play for Arsenal, or I'm not really into football, so I don't quite know, but I know they play for Premier League football teams sometimes. And so they use their cryo units, because that's mainly who owns them in the UK. There's not many for public use, as far as I know.
Just the big sports.
Billionaire football teams. And Ronaldo, I think he got and put in his house, didn't he? Which you would if you had the money. If you felt the experience, I think you would, wouldn't you? But what was I saying? I forgot what I was saying.
We're saying about the temperature.
Temperature. Yeah. So the footballers, they're saying, keep it. This is by far the coldest one that we've ever been in, and that's the feedback I'm getting from loads of people.
So is that something to do with that element?
Yeah, it must just be. All I can think of is because not even the guy I bought it off. I've told him a few times, and he just looks at me a bit confused. And I'm like, mate, I can go in yours at 180, no problem. I can't get past 155 in this. It burns. Actually, you get frostbite. It'll burn you.
How would you describe it, and Matt, for listeners, when you're in the cryo? You obviously you put something on your hands, something on your feet.
Yeah. To protect the extremities. So fingers, make sure your fingers are protected, and your toes. So put socks on and Crocs over the top. It's a fantastic look. Can
it is, yeah. It's taken off that long, isn't it?
And then shorts, swimsuit, and basically, just stand there 3 minutes. But most people's perceptions of that are not at all not what it's going to be like, because most people got cold, don't like the cold, but most people's experience of cold is a wet winter, January or something, getting wet and cold and windy blowing you around or something, and it's not like that at all. It's so cold that you can't comprehend it.
Yeah, it's a different sensation. I found it to be a different sensation entirely.
It's dry, and it's sort of you're inside, and in an environment, your head's out of the top, so you're not claustrophobic, and it's just it's over in 3 minutes. Before you know it, you're out. And it's just a very different experience. It's not like the cold. Well, it can't be, because it's so cold. It's not anywhere on earth like it. So you can't have experienced it. So what you're thinking it's going to be like is just, all you've got to relate it to is cold weather or something. Yeah.
And in terms of, again, people coming, I guess it's similar to the float. People are coming for all sorts of different reasons: ailments, depression, fitness, repair, recovery. Yeah,
obviously Lincoln City, the footballers, they use it for recovery mainly. We get a lot of athletes. They're travelling. People are travelling from quite a long way for it now.
Hey, so that's another question I wanted to ask you. What are the demographics of other? Is there? Are you kind of reaching right across the Midlands?
Yeah. Because, like I say, even where the nearest one is Manchester, as far as I know. There is one slightly closer. I think there's one in Hull. But I know a few people have been trying other ones out, and athletes, but because they've tried this one and it is quite a lot more intense, they're travelling a little, they'd rather travel to use that one, which is interesting. But we're getting people travel from all over.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's all going good then.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, I think having covered, your drive, I'd like to know, because we chew the chat, I'm just fascinated by childhood. Where does it all begin? Where do you get your drive? How, what's a 7-year-old Matt? What's he doing? Where were you born? How did it all start for you? What was the dynamics at home, and what put you on the road?
So drive now is easy. It just keeps me sane, out of trouble. That's it. Just the thought of where I could be is enough fear to keep me at it.
Okay,
but true. I grew up around near Stockport. My mum fostered lots of children, and so many that I'd live in the garden, in a tent, and in the garage, which is, as a kid, fascinating and really exciting. All sorts of kids.
Oh, that's interesting. So you and your brother?
No, I'm not fostered. So my mum's my blood mother.
Yep.
You've met Joe, the Down syndrome lad. He's my blood brother. I've got one other blood brother and one blood sister.
Okay.
Yeah, and then my mum fostered just dozens and dozens of people, lots. She'd have emergency cases, so there'd be a knock on the door some nights, and it'd be like, Matthew, and I'd be like, take your bed in, you in the garage, and then be like, they bring someone in who's emergency case there for 3-4 days, sometimes some longer, some stayed with us several years. Robert, he's still with us. I still see Robert quite a lot. But they'd be like young child prostitutes at the age of 14 years old, and as a 7-8-year-old lad, I was around all this, and I can very vividly remember the girl in the fur coat sat there with a baby and all the makeup on. For 3 or 4 days, and then she'd go, and then Ivan Wild, he'd beat his dad up with a poker while his dad was in bed, and we used to call him Wild Ivan, and got on cracking with him. He was such a lovely lad for me. It was like, come on, me and him got on like an house on fire. So all,
So that's, off the bat, that's a dynamic that you sound like you're interested in it, and you were kind of compliant with it and be part of it.
I loved it.
I imagine a lot of kids would be put out entirely by that, and it could internalise them completely and feel like,
I think it's probably why.
Were your siblings cool with it?
Yeah.
So it's kind of unifying then in a way.
Yeah. No, I always, because I've got a Down syndrome brother, so at school people would be like, they'd be taking the mickey out of people with learning disabilities, and in the 1970s that was a certain phrases you'd use and terms. I had a black sister, Jennifer. So obviously there was that going on as well, and as a really young lad, I was just like, all these people just make fun of everyone that lives in my house, basically, and it was like, you know what I mean? It was like, and Jennifer was an interesting one. Her mum, got caught on the train going to Manchester with her mum's head in a bag. So,
Hell. Oh, wow. Jesus Christ.
And Robert, his dad, used to visit he'd come out of prison, he'd let him on day release, and I used to think he was the most poshest man ever. He'd turn up in these velvet suits with loads of gold and stuff, and he'd be on day release with a couple of prison guards, and they'd have to stand there and talk to Robert, and I was like, wow, I want to be like him when I'm older, like, look at him, slick back hair, all the jewellery and stuff. But yeah, to me, I was with so many random different people of colours and backgrounds, and and the regular kids at school would pick fun at most of them. I was like, yeah, these live. It made me look at everything.
What do you think that is? Why do we do that? Is that the wolf in the pack syndrome, where peers are just trying to, not be a target, so they target? I mean, how does that work? And what were the kids like coming through? So, Jennifer, for instance, were these kids easy for you to get to and sort of build a bond with and kind of share time with? Let's go in the field, let's do this.
Yeah. So some would not be around for so long. So like Cheryl, Susan and Paul, they were brothers and sisters, 2 sisters and a brother, Paul. They came along and they were with us for like 9 years. And for the move, we moved from Stockport Way up to Boston, which was absolutely horrifying as a young man, moving to the fens.
To Boston.
Gee, oh my word, I wonder what Mum done to us. Yeah, I looked out the window and I could see everything as far as you couldn't see anymore. There was just flat lands. I was like, what have you done to me? So that was terrifying. But yeah, they came with us, and they were with us for several years. And Robert, like I say, he got brought to us. He had clogs on. He had coins in his hand that he wouldn't let go. And when we actually managed to get the coins out of his hand had gone all mouldy and green. He'd been holding them. That's all he had. He didn't have anything. His dad was in prison he tried to kill his mum with a crossbow, and so he came to stay with us. And so, I grew up around all this.
So a lot of these kids, obviously, they're coming from troubled and
yeah. Oh, one lad, he couldn't eat. I was on about him the other night, actually, when we had a family gathering for my dad's funeral, and was on about this lad. And couldn't give him warm drinks or anything. He didn't know how to eat or drink. It was like a feral animal. It was tragic, really. At the time, as a kid, it was like, this is weird. Why is he doing that? But he didn't know how to eat toast. He'd get a piece of toast and he'd try and eat it flat. So he'd be shoving his face through the toast, and he'd get red hot drinks and drink a bottle of anything. Just get his hands on anything and just try and eat. It's like a wild animal. So a lot of troubled children. Yeah.
And did you ever have run-ins with him, or were you generally able, like the harmony? It sounds like your family, your mum, your dad, and you guys to all be on the same page and just be sort of flowing with that. That's a lovely thing.
Yeah. No, I never really fell out with. I got on really well with all of them, and like I say, some weren't there that long, so it was quite brief. Mm-hmm. But there was no one like don't like you, hate you, and like
any crazy stuff in your house. Did they come in and do any bonkers stuff that maybe put pressure on your mum and dad, or was it always
Yeah, but
is it to be expected and you just sort of handle it as par for the course kind of thing? Or
well, yeah, when we left Stockport, my mum and dad bought these dog kennels out near Boston, like I say, and it was sort of, my brother was in a punk band. They had a recording studio out the back, and I'd go off to punk gigs with them all the time. His mates had come and live at the house. And my mum one of my friends got put in Roresby Hospital. My mum was like, that's disgusting. Went and got him out. He came and no one knew. She just went and got him. He came and lived with us for like 8 months until the police figured out he'd gone missing and came. No, it was like his mum didn't even. It was just bizarre, sort of. So it was a bit of a weird household. My mum and dad would be like, we're off to America for 6 weeks. See you later. And there's like 12, 13-year-olds. They'd be gone. My sister was the oldest at 16, 17 at the time. They'd be gone for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and we'd run the kennels and clean had 60 dog kennels to clean out every morning, run the business, and they'd be gone and come back, and they'd be locked up now, wouldn't they?
So your mum and dad's sort of professional history then? Is dad? What did dad do? That's what they do?
Dogs, yeah. My dad was into his dogs, yep. And my mum was more on the foster side of things. My dad obviously was considerate and went along with it, but he was just into his dogs. That's what he was into. So he bought a dog kennels in Lincolnshire. And when we moved there, it was like it was like the Clampets, I guess. It was that many of us moved into this big old farmhouse, dog kennels, and yeah, it was a bit of an open house, and it always was. And I sort of grew up with that, which sort of tied in nicely with how I ended up living. To be honest with you.
Well, yeah, that's where we're going to go. So obviously, you leave at some point. How old are you when you leave, and what are you leaving to do? And how does it go?
First time I left at 15 and got a caravan at Root and Moor. And then I did that for about 8 months, maybe a year. And then ended up going back just for a few months. And then I met Paula, and she was 15, I was 16. And then we just got a flat on Lincoln High Street. That was it. I was like, and then we never looked back. And we did that, the usual land jobs, working on the land. And then I just remember going, everything changed. Was working on the land, was going to punk gigs, was just big into the gigging.
And you're a punk at this point?
Yeah, all I ever did, 3-4 punk gigs a week. I'd hitchhike around the country. I'd just go to punk gigs. From a very young age, I'd be off touring, going on punk gigs and hitchhiking around. And, you know, so was Paula. But we didn't know each other then. You know, she was at the same age. She'd be sleeping in parks and stuff like that. And then we met. And, we went to a Chumbawamba gig. And I remember seeing, I can't remember what, even 88. And there was a bus in a lay-by, a big black bus with a chimney and smoke coming out of it. And I drove past and I slowed down. I was like, someone's living in that bus, in that lay-by. And I went to the Chumbawamba gig and all I could think of was this bus. And then I got home and I drew a little map on a bit of paper. It was like, kitchen could go here, that could go there. Yeah, we'll do that. And I went, what do you reckon, Paula? She went, if you get that, I'm leaving you. So I went out and bought one the next week.
Of course.
And I must have been 17, 18 then. I was young. I forget times and things. But
So
I was
you're
young.
getting graft in, though, as much as you're touring and you're pulling money in.
Oh, yeah, I was working. Yeah, always worked. Always, yeah, I've always worked. I don't like sitting around. No. So if I'm sat around, I'd rather be... I used to have a job in a potato factory at Crowland. And with hindsight, if I did it now, obviously I'm 51, it wouldn't be the best job in the world. But when I was 16, 17, I loved it. I wanted to go to work there. And I'd get in fights there with people. They'd set this, like, Ken, he said this about you. And Ken was this absolute monster of a man. And I'd be working on the potato machine, minding my own business. You'd be picked up, swinging around by your hair, thrown into a sack pack, running around, sliding under conveyor belts. It was like... You'd go there and do that every day. I loved it. Yeah. But I'd rather do that than...
I don't think they operate like that now. No. I don't think you're allowed.
No, I don't think they could do it. But yeah, so
you're always earning the money, and you're obviously a punk, and I guess you're a punk not just in aesthetics, but in your being.
Yeah.
You know, you stand... Because punk was... It's not just the music. It's not just a sound.
No,
it's
a way of being.
Yeah,
and
it's an ethic, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And for me, it's the DIY culture. It's like, learn how to do it yourself. Don't.
So that's kind of at the root, then, I guess. That we were talking before we got recording, and about you being driven to do things and do it yourself. Whether it's learn this in the house and take this on and. That's coming from there.
Yeah. I mean, this is when I listen to lyrics and it's still the same, or it doesn't matter. Just lyrics of a band or someone in a position that I look at and go, he knows what he's on about. They are burnt into my skull forever. And there's several examples of that actually changed my life massively, or propelled my life in a direction I was going on much quicker. And punk music was like that for me. I'd listen to lyrics like from Stiff Little Fingers about Nobody's Heroes, and from Crass about getting up and doing stuff yourself and not waiting for someone to tell you to do things, and take control, be your own authority. And them words to me as a lad growing up, they resonated so much, and like I say, burnt them into my brain. And still to this day. You mentioned Jordan Peterson earlier. I know he's got love-hate relationship with most of the world, but I don't agree with everything he says, but every now and again I'll say a sentence and you're like, that. And one sentence he said, and it came in, he said, be the strongest man at your father's funeral. That was one sentence he said, and I listened to that about 3 years ago maybe, and that hit me hard, and it was like, that's not just about being at your dad's funeral, that's about an approach to life. Yeah. And I've been living that since, to another level. You're always trying to do these things anyway. That's the next thing that I need to be working on. And when it was my dad's funeral, I mentioned Jordan Peterson at my dad's funeral when I did the eulogy, and it's like, it had such an impact on me. And I stood there and I spoke, and it was very clear, and I felt grounded, and I was like, and I was, I was that man. And it was nice to be able to do that. But yeah, from growing up, just words people say in songs, and it sounds stupid, doesn't it? Especially if you listen to S Club 7 or something. Well, they profoundly changed me.
I was about to say that, because in the current climate, which, like everything, every sort of industry, ultimately where we are now, it's commerce driven, you know. As you mentioned there, listening to punk lyrics that sort of just trigger you and sit with you, they're coming from bands who've been kicking it about in garages and, they've been in the back of the vans, and that's still happening today, but that's what music's meant to do. That's, anybody who writes a song and gets it out there. They want other people to hear it, and if they can take what they take from it, and it has a lasting effect, that is music doing its most beautiful thing.
Yeah, yeah.
As you mentioned, we fast forward to today, and it's, you know, it's a different. Certainly, mainstream music it's like a homogenized box ticking algorithm, you know, and you've got 5-year-old girls in the back of the car on the way to nursery singing Rihanna songs, and I'm going to shake my arse, and you're not having this pussy, you know, and in my Audi TT, and you're thinking,
it's
I hope that's not burning across her cortex.
Yeah, like you do. Oh my word. Yeah, no, I know.
And the Jordan Peterson thing as well, you know, I mean, I'm similar. I feel similarly to you, I guess. I think he says, like you know, if you're, so much of it depends on where you are as well, doesn't it? You know, that sticks. But I read his book, and there was bits in there. Some of my family read it, and they didn't get on with it. I thought there was a real, for me, I kind of boiled that down to, as you mentioned, DIY, do it yourself. Like, stand on your own 2 feet. You know, like, try and make things happen for yourself and be responsible for yourself. Try and make your world a little bit better, and the ripple effect comes back.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, and in the same vein, I also think this a lot as well. Recently, this is a lot. I speak to a guy a lot about this. We back and forth on this point. I think that's 100% made my life better and me a better person, going through, you know, and how to build my business to the point it's at now, and all the stuff I did. But saying that, I don't think people should have to go through what I went through to get the successes I got. Well, especially with the business. I think it's made so difficult. And I don't think, if I wasn't that driven and that, I don't know what the word is, if I wasn't so driven and focused on my goals and a bit of a fuck you to everything else, you know, it's like that's the sort of an attitude I've carried with me. It's like, I will do this. And just pushed, like, to breaking point a few times. Not everyone can do that, and so that means not everyone can succeed in certain, you know. And obviously there's other things, but you know, to run a business these days, I thought that was one of the most difficult things I've ever done, and I don't think it should be that difficult. Although it should be difficult. Yeah, but, you know, I'm with you. I mean, so you're travelling, you meet Paula, you go into the punk gigs, you end up buying a flat in Lincoln, above the Shakespeare pub,
above the Shaky, Wow. I used to box behind there, actually.
Yeah, that's right.
Terry Allen,
That's right, yeah.
So you guys are still gigging. You see this bus.
Yeah. God, you've got a good memory. You kept us back on track.
And the bus
blew my mind.
Yeah. And now you get one.
Yeah, and there I am, 17, 18 years old, driving a 40-foot Panorama Elite Express 5, home from Peterborough. You learn a couple of things about turning circles in a bus when you've driven a car at 17, 18 on a car licence and no bus licence, because, you know, the laws at that time, I could and still can because I've got OAP rights. But yeah, I kitted it out. Took me a few months to kit it out, and off we went. Just went. No, like, right, first festival. And there was at the time in the UK, I think this is probably difficult for some people to grasp, but at the time, there was a really thriving festival scene, free festival scene. The first one of the year, we used to gather down in Avon. I think first bank holiday in May or the second, I can't quite remember. And there'd be a festival list, and you'd go, and it'd be like, right, we've got to Avon Free. And at that time, late 80s, there were more hippie type affairs. There was no rave, there was no electronic music at the festivals. It was bands, stages, Wango Riley's stage still going. And makeshift stages, and they'd go on for 3 or 4 days, 5 days, and then everyone had up sticks, and it'd be like, oh, we're off to Durham now, and it'd be like, yeah, Bollyoak Common, okay, let's go Bollyoak, and there was a list, and it's like, that's where you went, and people set up beer stalls, people were selling, and there was scrap metal merchants, and, you know, little communities, little mobile communities, and we just did that for a few years, and then the rave thing, I was at the first, I think that was 89 or 90, it might be 90, the first outdoor free rave by DIY Sound System. Because there was the M25 raves with the sort of the big setups, and then they sort of amalgamated with the Travellers scene. And I was at the first one, and I walked into the marquee and looked in, and it was like a Thursday afternoon they'd set up, and they was playing this bleep, 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 and I'm looking and I just went, what the hell is that shit? Yeah, it was like, that'll never take off. That'll be a flop. It was like, it won't be here next year. And I watched that over the weekend. It didn't interest me at all. I thought it was a complete and utter garbage. And
musically, or the setup, or the vibe, the culture,
everything. Yeah, just looked at it. It was like, didn't get it. Just did not get it. It just blew. Yeah, it was like alien. And I'm only 19, 20 at this time, right? And it was just punk rock. But like, I mean, my punk rock was quite varied. I wasn't like, all one style of punk rock. It was quite varied. And the next year, it was like, got the festival list. It's like, right, Avon 3. Drove down, got to Avon 3. And about 9 sound systems turned up. Circus Warp and all these Spiral Tribe and all these other sound systems, double-decker buses. And they set all these sound systems up. And it went for 5 days non-stop, all day and all night, like just full-on techno. I was like, I get it now. Like, Saturday morning, they're all still dancing on the bus roof. I'm wandering around watching going, oh, yeah. Right. So something clicked.
That transition, like, you're literally feeling it happen.
Yeah. Watching it, and in it,
in real time.
Yeah, but at first sort of as an observer, because I was like, it's not my thing. I'm into the punk music. And then all of a sudden it sort of got me. And when I found myself dancing for 12 hours with everyone else and feeling this unity, and then that was it. Again, another big life-changing moment. And
so the music is pretty much synonymous with the drugs, the rave music.
Yeah.
So is it a case that you can feel the music through the drugs and get the dancing, or does the music get you at all? Because a punk to rave in real time is fucking...
Yeah, but I was very... to be honest with you, drugs weren't my thing at that point. I have tried, obviously, since then, have done. And but at that point, very... not anti-drug. It just wasn't... All my friends did drugs. Yeah. Either smoked weed or took speed. Mainly... In the punk scene, it was mainly amphetamines. And some people smoked weed. But then you go into the rave scene, it was like all of a sudden I was hearing about this LSD and ecstasy and all this sort of stuff. And it was like... didn't mean anything to me, wasn't really interested, but I just like dancing. I still like dancing. I still dance a lot. Love dancing. Find it a very I'm terrible at it.
We don't do it enough.
No, we don't. No, but I feel great afterwards. Love it. And I just dance. Just get involved with the dance.
And you could... I guess that's my question. So without the substances, because it's so synonymous to take ecstasy and feel the beats and the unifying experience of euphoria, but people are getting that without the drugs, the feeling of just people just letting go.
Yeah, you pick up on it, man. It was
the hypnotic music. The beat,
very
trance.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't take long before. I mean, it was hitchhiking. We was going through Glastonbury Village, not the Glastonbury Festival. We lived down there for a little bit. And I just got picked up by a random guy in a car, and he was like, "Have you ever tried MDMA?" No.
What year is this? What year is it?
91.
Okay.
91.
Yeah.
Maybe 92. Maybe 91. And I was like, no. And he said, here. And he passed us this little capsule. He said to me and Paul, he said, here, take this. Take half of that when you get home. He said, you'll love it. And I just got home, stuck it in the bus that we lived in on site, and I just stuck it away somewhere. Didn't think anything of it. And then we went to a Devon festival. It was Devon on the airfield. And the police had caught a massive roadblock. Sound systems were on, we got on, and the sound systems were playing music, but the police had blocked the roads for most of the people in the cars. So all the travellers' vehicles were on there and the sound systems, and the roads were blocked. And I said, let's try that MDMA capsule. And he was like, all right then. Half each, and wandered down to the police roadblock. And we got down there, and there's everyone dancing on the car roofs, and the police had just stood there. They're not bothered. They're just under orders to stop the rave. And they were just like, all right, mate. And he looked at Paul and he went, you look like you've had a fresh night's sleep. And I turned around and looked at her and I was like, my God, she does. She looks like she's been just woke up and like the freshest thing on the planet. And I was like, can you see what I can see? What's going on? And then it was like, people are just dancing on the car roofs, and then the police were like, go on, open the roadblock. And they just sent everyone in, get them off the road. And yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautiful, man. The actual sensation and the unity and the openness, just so open. I just never felt that sort of love, I guess. That was massive. Like a love download. Yeah, sounds cheesy, doesn't it?
Well, it does, and I'm sure many people listening to this have had the experience themselves. But there is something that's unlocked. There's something that's in you that you can't articulate to a degree, and then it becomes automatic. You're just like, it's almost like there's invisible wiring connecting everybody just on this kind of subliminal.
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
we're all here, and we all know we're here, and it's just like there's no bother, and it's just a sweetness and
it's beautiful, isn't it?
Warmth.
Yeah. Like getting out the float tank.
Exactly. And as we've gotten older, I mean, because I'm a bit younger than you, but I was. I used to love my raving and dancing, bit later for me, sort of more later 90s when I finally got out there. But I remember going to Cream. It was Cream in Liverpool, and it was I think it was their 5th or 6th birthday, about 96 or 97. And I'd heard so much about Cream and Paul Oakenfold at the time, and Tall Paul and some of these guys. And some guys from my art college were going and invited me on their minibus, and we went over. And I remember clambering up in the courtyard room in there, which was, I think, something like 3,000 or 4,000 people in this. And I can remember it to this day, and I've been to many a rave and, all that ever since. But that was, I guess, like you're saying about when you said the lyric or whatever it is that burns into your kind of psyche in that moment and imprints you. And I remember being on there and people there was just sea of smiling faces, and the music and the lights, and and it was just, and I'd been to local stuff, we still to Ash, Big Deal of Lord and bits like that. But in there it was like
something clicked.
And the love wave. It sounds fucking ridiculous, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But that stuck with me, and I love
the life defining moments, aren't they? There's sort of something changes after that, and it's like you could go back, I guess, but you'd have to block out memories and stuff. But there's something changed in you, and you're like, okay, as humans, we are capable of these things.
Yeah, and you don't know that at the time. You kind of go back to your life on Monday or Tuesday or whatever it is, and the passing weeks and months, and something's rewired to a degree or opened up, more capacity or whatever that is.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, potential.
Yeah. They were great days. So you're now sort of moving into the rave scene, and do you sort of become a disciple in that
Oh,
area?
I just went out and got a sound system straight away. I was done. That was just hook, line and sinker, like everything in my life. I was like, right, I'm doing that.
Excellent.
Went out, but built an absolutely monster rig. Travelled around the UK with it. It got quite heavy in the UK. There was we ended up so basically we left the UK because the UK got, after Castle Morton, which was one of the biggest ones, it just got too big. The authorities couldn't have it. There's 50,000 of us maybe. Estimates between 30 and 50. I don't know. It was chaos.
What year would that have been in?
I think that was 92.
Yeah,
and that was one of the last big gatherings. There was a few more that year. We went down to Torpedo Town in Romsey, and that was a nice gathering. There was a couple more, but they'd stepped up their game, the police, to stop them, and it was like, no, we are stopping them. And violence is their ultimate tool, and they will win because they're limitless in their funding and tactics. And it got messy, and we ended up going abroad. Well, we ended up in court. There was a few court cases. A lot of people ended up in prison because they were charging them with all the, the criminal justice bill came in with all the new laws of repetitive beats and a gathering of 12, with a succession of repetitive beats and all this sort of stuff. So.
What a fucking shame that is, because you've got 50,000. Yeah, don't get me wrong. When you start getting on scale, there's potential for things to go wrong. But ultimately, these are people shunning the high street and the booze and the punch up and the whole kind of cycle there, and just disappear into a field to just have experiences of love. Yeah,
and dance,
and then get fucking
talk
with batons and fucking shields. And told that you're subhuman. Yeah.
Well, you think? I mean. There's many reasons for it. I don't think it's a good message to send to the general public that a bunch of messed up hippies or whatever they call us at the time could organise 50,000 people like that to get in a field with just on the cusp of mobile phones, no internet, nothing, just like right, boom, and they're there. And it sucks. It runs, like you say, the odd problem, but go Lincoln High Street on a Saturday night, the odd problem. And we dealt with ours, and there's no police on site, so we dealt with our own problems. But, no licence is paid for, no permission asked for. Basically, we are doing this. And that's that's that thing I said. It's like, I've always been very driven, and that was that. When they said, no, you're not doing this. You're not, I was like, I am doing this more. I mean, it got me in trouble. I ended up in prison. Okay. I ended up... It got so intense over a few years. I mean, it got to the point where I was talking about this earlier, and I got to the point where I have a massive distaste for authority. I'm much better now, but at the time, when someone turns up and basically says, you can't dance in a field without paying for a licence, organising da-da-da-da-da, it's like, I'm dancing in the field and you're not going to stop me. And it was to that point. And there was not just me, there was lots of us, And it got to the point where I would literally drive my bus at police roadblocks and scatter motorbikes.
Really?
Yeah. It's like the lawlessness of it. It got to quite, when I look back, I should have been doing a lot longer in prison, basically. And
So what was the charge in the end? And was it kind of...
So that one, I didn't get that one. The police did. It was up on D side, Morton Lighthouse, and the police were terrified of the locals, not us. We pulled on there. They brought Douglas Hurd in the end. Douglas Hurd came, flowed in an helicopter. We were there 10 days, I think, and they were petitioning for us to stay longer because the crime rate had gone down in D-side while I was there. And I was like, yeah, crime rate's gone down in D-side. It's gone up on Traveller's site, robbing all us. And I'm sorry, but that's the way it was.
Yeah.
And but it was great. It was party. I can't remember, free party sound system. I think it was free now. Right on the beachhead there on the Morton Lighthouse. So they wanted us off, but they were terrified of the local gangs and the local, coming on and it kicking off. They weren't really too fussed about us. So I ran through the police roadblock.
Literally firing cars out.
Well, they stopped me. I tried to drive onto site, and they actually came out in front and stopped me. And I was like, "You're not getting on," and they were, they were being aggressive. And I had a Rottweiler at the time, and I opened the bus doors, and the Rottweiler ran out, chased this first copper off up the street. And as he did it, a bloke walked past with dreadlocks and a crate of special brew, and he went, "Nice one, man." And the copper, dog's running off up the road, and I was like, "All right, chap." And it was like normal conversation while the dog's attacking this. So I was like, "Eric, back," and it got back and. The copper came back and he was like, "All right, well, let's do this again." And we negotiated. And I said, I turned round and I drove down where they couldn't. It was behind an humpback bridge where the police roadblock was, so they couldn't see me. Tactics, Sam. Yeah, tactics, strategy. Yeah. And so I drove and I got as much speed up as I could in the bus, which is about 55. Went over the humpback bridge, and then the police roadblock was there. They stepped out in front of me, and I just went like, put my hands up as if to say, "What do you want me to do? I'm going too fast to stop." They scattered. I hit the curb. The road goes around on a bend, and then the lighthouse is on there where we was having the party. No one was on there yet. I was the first. And I hit the curb that fast in my bus. I left the ground. I had a motorbike in the cab. That flew all over, smashed my kitchen up. The bus was bouncing up and down like a seesaw onto the common. And then I slammed the brakes on. It was grass, so it slid. It's 12 tons, so it slid, right, right up the common. And I just sat there and I was like, "Oh, what have I done? I'm off to prison." And then I looked in the mirrors and all the police are coming in, running in. And then the next minute, all the police are running away. And all the scousers are all running in. "Nice one, mate, nice one." And that was an hero. They took my tyres off my bus, went and took them to the garages, got them repaired, brought them back, put all my wheels on, got me onto site. Then everyone else started piling on. And it was a bit like that for a few years, yeah. It was like that year mainly, and the following year got a bit weirder. But what happened was the travelling community so I was investigated, a few of us, but it was called Operation Snapshot, MI5 investigators, and they had tracked all our movements for a year or 18 months. And like I say, a lot of people ended up in prison for organisation and,
and conspiracies and things like that.
Yeah, dodgy charges. And what happened was the criminal justice bill hadn't gone through. It was being pushed. And we were living on travellers' sites around. In winter, we'd go back to Horncastle and live there. And one of the sites we'd live on was Station Yard, or Sotby, or a few others. And I drove my bus on, as we normally did, after the festival season. There was a bit of a battlefield, most of it. And police turned up the next day and were like, "You're off." And I was like, no, we park here every year, we work here, we were locals, we work here, we've come here every year, grew up here. And they were like, "No." And the next day, just dozens of riot vans came in, they just dragged everyone out. They got tow trucks and were dragged. It was on the film. I had an old army truck at the time. They used it to drag everyone else's vehicles off. Locked us up and let us out, and then we had to get collector vehicles, dogs were impounded and stuff like that. So then we would try to move to another traveller site, but what happened was the council paid all the council workers, some of them were people's families that we knew, to block all the council parking lots off. So like any council land that was waste or scrubland, council vehicles blocking it all off. So we couldn't get anywhere, and it was getting absolutely chaotic. And the editor of the Horncastle News wrote a piece about it, and she was like, "This is an infringement of civil liberties, it's disgusting, it's got a thin end of a wedge." It was really supportive, the local newspapers. It got more and more intense, and I actually ended up fighting. They brought a policeman in called Inspector Jones, and we had a few fights with him. My dog attacked him, set my dog on him, and that there's an absolutely hilarious story behind that. But I'll tell you, it was absolutely comical. And it just got messy, and I ended up fighting with these 3 policemen, and I did some damage. Yeah, I went mental. Mm-hmm. And bear in mind, at that time, I'm not a fighter. I'm just this, scrawny 20-odd-year-old.
So you got no martial arts
No,
at that point?
no, just angry and driven and like, no, you know, and they just arrested me on the way home for no reason whatsoever, coming back from the pub back to Traveller's Sight, and it just kicked off, and I was just like, I'm not having this. And they ended up pinning me down and beat me unconscious and threw me in the back of a riot van. And then I remember coming around from unconscious and looking around, and there was a copper sat there and a copper sat there, and I use these terms now. I'm not being derogatory. My family, my uncles, my nephew's a policeman. I was with him the other day. And so, you know, I just jumped up and kicked him in the face, broke his glasses, jumped up, headbutted this one. I had my hands handcuffed behind my back, kicked the back doors of the van.
Have you got a Mohican at this point?
Yeah.
Excellent. Big one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kicked the back doors of the van open and just legged it, and they caught me and beat me up. And anyway, it went to court. So I'm looking at years. Yeah, I'm looking at several years in prison. And a court case, and the judge went all the police evidence and this and that and damage and hospitalised and GBH against the police and criminal damage, and I was like,
that's heavy, man.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I was looking at some time. Judge did the you know, spoke, said okay, said okay, I sentence you, Matthew Frost, to 1 month in prison, and I went, what? Did she just say 1 month? And my mum went, no. And I went, Mum, shut up.
You still got your Mohican in court?
Yeah.
Yes.
But the thing was, I had a good relationship with the court. I'd used to represent people in court, and I'd speak in court, and
Really?
I'd vouch. Yeah, so Mackenzie's
travellers and stuff like that?
Yeah, so if people were getting evicted, or even some of the local lads that were just lunatics, like, you know.
So you're kind of a mediator, like a mediator for people.
So I'd go and go, look, if you give him bail, I'll make sure he gets here next week. And they'd be like, promise? And I'm like, so I'd go around the house and drag, come on. Like, oh, come on, Frost, you're all right. And I'm like, no, I gave my word. You'll get in the back there. I gave you a week, I'm out about. No, so I had a bit of a relationship, which doesn't happen now because the local courts like that have gone. So that was a luxury I had at that time. So when it came to the court case, she knew the editor of the Oncastle News. She was a local magistrate, and she just went, "This has been an infringement of civil liberties for the last few months. What's been going on in the town is disgusting." Basically, I can't remember the exact words. And she went, "No fines, no compensation. 1 month, you'll be out in 2 weeks." And she went, "And good luck to you, sir."
Really?
Yeah. And I was just
more
like,
power to
"Wow,
her.
yeah." And I was like, "Wow, that was interesting." That's when I cooked up my plan to move abroad while I was in prison, because that one. It's prison. It was.
How did that go? What was your experience in that then? Did you know? Was it local? Were you in Lincoln?
Lincoln, yeah. No, yeah, just I had a laugh, to be honest.
Was it what you thought it would be? How did you feel on the way there, Matt?
You didn't like the journey on the way there. The not knowing. Never been in a prison before. Been in lots of police cells.
Have you been visit people in there or anything like that? Even been in prison? No?
Not at that point. No. Yeah, the uncertainty was didn't like that. That was nervy.
I guess because, you know, obviously I've never been to prison myself, but I've been to visit lots of friends, and I can only have this framework in my head that I've derived from film and book and all the rest of it. And I guess most people are just kind of putting this together in their head on the way there. Thinking,
Yeah. I mean, the first guy I was locked up with sharing a cell with was him for murder, and he was being moved from prison to prison, and he had a bag with him, and I had chatting with him, and it was, you know, a normal conversation. He seemed a nice guy, and and then the guy next door, he was in for having sex with horses. So at film time,
interesting bunch.
It was at film time. So I'd come out and have a film once a day, and you could write on the whiteboard next to the telly what you wanted. So everyone had written "One Man and His Horse." So it was all, you know, all these. It's a vet's life, Animal Farm. And every time he came out of his cell and walked down the hall, clippity clop the old room, and it was so it was like an episode of Dad's Army or something. It was ridiculous. They gave me great food. A Rasta guy used to come out at the end of the line and stop me and give me specific food because I was vegan at the time. Nice food. Lost a bit of weight. Did hundreds of press-ups a day and came out.
Did you have any drama with anybody in there, or was people cool?
Yeah, it's fine.
Because you're a punk rocker, and is there many other punk rockers in there?
Mate, on my cell door, imagine what it said for my charges, and then what the police had charged me with and what I was in for. They were banging on my door first morning. Yeah. Nice one, mate! I was like,
some credence.
Yes. Sat in my cell like, I'm going to Portugal when I get out.
So how did you feel coming out of there then? I mean, obviously it's a short stint, but nevertheless, you know, that's something that you know.
Yeah. They forgot it was my release day. I didn't like that. I was like, oh my God, I can't get out till Monday if they don't let me out now. And another 3 days was a horrific thought. But at the same time, it was, you know, it was a bit of a jolly 2 weeks, you know, it's 2 weeks. It was ridiculous, really. So, yeah, coming out was wonderful. I mean, Mum met me outside with a big bunch of flowers. There's people getting out after 10, 15 years. No one there waiting for them. I get out, my mum's there with a big bunch of flowers and a bottle of champagne.
And how did Mum and Dad take it then? And that's something, you know, you've got that much colour and vibrance going on here that I'm kind of bringing it back to the parents. So, mum and dad, when you move off and you start travelling and you go into the raves, are mum and dad kind of cool with you, or are they like, come on, Matt, what are you doing? This is crazy?
Yeah,
or
always been cool. Always been very cool, very supportive. They very... My dad was quite what would he say? An old yocker, if you like.
Yeah.
But he was very open-minded, and he'd travel a lot, and he'd travel all over the place. I remember from a very young age he'd take us to foreign countries. We'd be going to Tunisia and Portugal. I was in Portugal when the Civil War was on. I remember the tanks on the street as a young lad. So he'd take me to all these places as kids. So we travelled a lot, and he was very open-minded for a meat and potatoes guy, if you like. I don't know what the word is.
Yeah.
But they were very supportive, really supportive. Always have been.
Was your mum upset when the jail thing came around? How did that affect the family on the lead up with the court and all that? Or was she just like understood that?
Yeah,
this is a bit ludicrous.
Yeah, well, yeah, because what was going on at the time was a very personal attack from the authorities on us, and then we got to local town, and it was very personal. So she knew what was going on. Like I say, it was in the papers a lot. It was in the headline news of the Oncastle News every week. She was reading that and obviously talking to me, and it was never very positive on our behalf. So. Yeah, she was witness to all that, and she knew me, and she knows I'm not a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't steal. I don't I don't hurt other
Treat people badly, yeah.
I say when I don't hurt other people, I know I ended up in those situations. But I often think about that because I don't genuinely. I'm very peaceful, non-violent, and the thought of hurting someone is disgusts me.
Mm-hmm.
But in that situation, it was in my mind, it was war. And it really was. I'd found a cause, and I was no.
It's amazing that we have that capacity, and it's there, isn't it? And what a sad thing that other humans who are following orders, I guess, and kind of
it is.
There'll be moments when those police are just looking around at you lot and thinking, "Fucking hell, I could live this life."
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And in the dialogue in their minds, but they've got to push through and show you the book and all the rest.
Well,
of it.
We did a party on Colonel Dimmick's land a long time ago, 2001 or something, and the police turned up there. But Colonel Dimmick, one of the Dimmick family, were in there dancing with us. So they came in all heavy, trying to kick us off the land. And then they were like, "Leave," and I was like, "No." And they were like, "What do you mean, no?" And I went, "No, I'm not leaving. We're going to stay here till whenever we want. We're staying here dancing until he leaves." And they looked and they went, "Oh."
Oh, right.
They recognised him, and it was like, it was shocking him out in front of the sound system. So it's like that hierarchy of like, mate, you can't do anything.
Move on.
We're with the royalty, raving in your field.
That's awesome. So you're in prison. You cook up this idea to say, you know what? Let's fucking get out of town. Let's go to
Portugal. I'd made the plan for Portugal. Let me tell you before I forget, though, because this is funny. It's when the dog attacked the policeman, Inspector Jones, on the site, he was basically forcing his way into our vehicles and stuff like that. So like someone just forcing their way into your house. He dragged me out of bed one morning, down some steps, and it got to that level of sort of intensity. Yeah. And my dog attacked him, so he took it to court. And in court, I just said, I haven't got a dog. I live on a traveller's site. That wasn't my dog. The newspaper reported it as dog throws court into confusion. And she said, go outside and just have a chat with Mr. Jones, see if you can sort it out. He was a lunatic. Couldn't sort anything out with him. It was proper, hard work to talk to. And a few weeks later, I was driving from we got evicted, and I was moving I had an old Bedford van. It was moss and like wood tied to the roof, broken windscreen, bald tyres, no brakes. I hadn't been driven on a road for years. And I was driving it from one place to another. And a police car pulled past and tried to stop me. And I didn't have any brakes. And this thing looked like the clampets. So I pulled out and overtook him about 3 miles an hour faster than he was going, looking at him, just going, I can't stop it. And he was like, and I managed to pull over in front of him. And he got out and he came over, he looked at the car, and he didn't know where to start. It was like, where do you start with this? And he went, where's the tax disc? And I went, same place as the brakes. And he went, right, okay. He said, got his notebook out, and he went, name? And I went, Matthew Frost. And he went, Matthew Frost? Do you know Inspector Jones? And I went, yes. And he went, did your dog attack Inspector Jones? And I went, yes. And he went, good man.
On your way.
Yeah, no. He said, okay, he escorted me to
Did he?
escorted me to a new site, pulled on. He was like, that man is a nightmare. He was like, I went, yeah, no. And he said, what a pain. And he said, come with us. He said, we'll escort you. He said, just keep slow. And he escorted to site, got out, sat on the bonnet, had a cup of tea with him, fine.
So then,
like,
there's, that's a nice thing to get back out of that time, I guess. You know what I mean? Give you a bit of fucking hell, actually,
He is mental. It's not just me.
Yeah. Wow. So you're off to Portugal in the bus.
So at this point, I'd sold the bus. I got a 1943 Leyland Hippo, diesel engine, still got one, and 23 mile an hour, 5 mile to the gallon, a beast of a truck to drive.
And how big is this?
It's a 12-ton. It's six-wheeler, back two axles drive. They are a nightmare to drive. When I think about it now, I don't know why the hell I did it, and I would never do it again. And I don't recommend it to anyone. It was insane. It was crackers. So we went, right, let's go to Portugal, and we basically had the back kitted out as a home. We had a Rayburn burner in it. The Rottweiler was still with us, Eric, me and Paula. Towed a cattle truck behind it with all my sound system equipment in it, motorbike and a few bits. Just set off to Portugal because I knew someone out there that bought a bit of land. I'd been there, so in my head, it was like, we're going to Portugal and we're sort of going to settle there and do some things. We've been there 2 weeks, and they said, Techneville in France, we're off to France. And I was like, oh, right, when? Friday. I was like, can I get to France in Friday at 23 mile an hour? I soon learned to drive it at night time and not in the day through Spain and Portugal, because the heat was so much in the cab. It's just a metal box with an engine
and a windscreen the size of a bloody
you're crouching down, you're down like this, you have to shrug your shoulders and get your head down. It's like doing rounds with Tyson. It was insane. And so we drove through the night. We used to do 12-hour stints through the night and then sleep through the day a little bit and then carry on. And got to the Techneville in France, and then we did Aurillac, and it just blew up from there. That was insane.
And are they rave do's, those ones, or are they a bit of everything, or what?
No, they were pure rave. In fact, so there was a Techneville. So Techneville means Techno Village, and that it was sort of establishing with the travellers that had left England, and then the sort of French scene had their scene, and the Czech scene, and there was a few other scenes, and then obviously the travelling communities between them from one to the other. But what happened was, so they were just pure techno, and if you did anything else at them, they were quite militant. They were very serious.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not acceptable music at this.
So what year is this then? Because I guess rave does start to branch off into its subgenres, doesn't it? You start to get the hard stuff, the techno, the trance.
This would have been 94, 95.
Yeah.
And it was very industrial, techno-driven warehouse from Berlin style music. Black and white, no coloured lights, hardcore. I mean, I remember my mate Pat, he lived in Portugal and he had to go back feed his goats, and when he mentioned that to some of the French guys, their brains looked like someone had just erased them. Feed the goats? Yeah, it's they're just standing in warehouses and dance in the concrete to techno in black and white. Yeah. It was insane. Yeah, the actual, it was insane to look at. It was funny. But so there was that scene going on, but what happened was we came along looking like punks, Mohicans, piercings, and dressed like punks, but lived in trucks, but played techno. And we got to Portugal, and there was no scene. There was like a club scene, which was very clean and crispy, if you like, very clean, polished club scene. And there was an anarchic punk scene, very separate. They'd cross the street from each other. It was like England in the 70s, mods and rockers, skins and punk, that sort of thing. Yep. They didn't like each other. They hated each other. They'd be like, spit, pop music, da-da, and all that. So they were very different factions. We confused the hell out of them. We turned up. So we were putting parties on. Was going around flying all the parties at the techno parties, and then going to the squat parties and the anarchist centres and going, and they were like, what? You play what? And it was just the confusion at first. But what happened? This is to this day, there was a moment in time when it happened as well. But over time, what happened was we was inviting the punk bands. The number one punk band in Portugal was called Chris Total at the time, and inviting the ravers, and we were playing techno for 5 days and these parties on the beaches in beautiful scenic places, and the punks were coming along and stood there, and they didn't get it for a bit. It was like, bring your band, build a stage, do this, get involved, DIY, da-da-da. So they started doing that, and they got involved, and then the next year was still there. We basically, we'd go off to Czech and do the Technoville circuit, come back to Portugal, but it was just us. There was no scene there. So we were sort of developing this scene, and then it just grew and grew and grew, and in the end, the punks were dancing to the techno, and there was one party at Sintra, and I've got a beautiful picture of it. I sat on a settee with Math one morning drinking a bottle of tequila, and I was just looking at it, and there were teepees set up, and the punks had a telly hanging from a chain and all wrapped in red plastic, and we had the sound system set up on Swedes removals truck playing techno, and it started raining, and this lad, punk, just picked up an handful of mud, and this real crisp, clean, bright yellow T-shirt, I remember it to this day, just picked up a lump of mud and just squashed it straight on his T-shirt. Me and Math just sat, looked at each other and went, this is going to go one of two ways. And we sat and watched, and a big mud fight erupted. And it sounds so cheesy when I'm saying it, but it's so true, it was amazing to watch. Within, 10, 20 minutes, whatever, everyone's covered in mud. No one can tell what each other looks like. Yeah. There's no punks, there's no ravers, there's no nothing.
There's mud people.
There's people, yeah. And it clicked.
Yeah.
And it clicked, man. And it was like, that changed the Portuguese subculture of music in that era. Yeah. And it's now a big thing. It's now like a sort of established scene where it's part of the Technoville circuit now. The rigs come along and it's part of the circuit around the Europe. But to watch that and be part of building that was absolutely fascinating.
Because again, the barriers, you get removed. We're kind of looking at each other. He's a punk, and then all of a sudden, you're just a human. That
sounds so stupid, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Chew the Chat podcast.
Thank you for listening to Chew the Cat podcast.
Chew the cat.
I want to say my own words.
Go on then.
Very angry.
Well, we're halfway through that conversation, and that conversation is going to unravel into some really interesting areas. But how cool's Matt? He's really interesting. That punk ethic just seems to cut through everything he does, and he's determined. The really nice balance between being, punk DIY, but disciplined and focused as well. Although I don't know how the fuck he managed to be focused driving that fucking great big lorry, cotton wool in your ears, rattling and rolling and not sleeping and the crazy carnage, but he loved it, and that drive was evident, and it carries through. So yeah, episode 1, that was. And next episode will be part 2, which will be in 2 weeks' time. If you want to find Matt in the meantime, you can go to www.function-first-lincoln.co.uk. Instagram, you'll find Function First Lincoln. And on Facebook, you can find him if you search Cryotherapy and Float Lab Lincoln. So check him out in the meantime. Next week, part 2, which, as I say, gets crazy with Matt. So we will say thank you to the sponsors, Go Deep Flotation. Get yourselves over there, switch off, unplug, and do yourself a favour. We live in crazy times, digital fucking madness, black mirrors everywhere. We're in the game. Go and unplug. Code word CHEW when you book, 10% off. Do it. It's awesome, and the people are wonderful over there. That's how for now. We will see you at the next episode of Chew the Chat. If you enjoyed this, tell a friend. Like and subscribe. It really does make a difference. If you can drop us a review, just drop us a line. But if you can do that, subscribe and review, that would mean the world to us. Help us reach as far as wide as we possibly can. I'd also like to give a quick shout to the Pod Bible Mag. Pod Bible Mag, for those of you who aren't aware of it yet, is an essential guide to podcasts. It's a magazine. It's an online magazine with print issues as well. And it's UK's first and I believe only magazine dedicated to podcasts. And the aim for the guys is to just become a hub for listeners, podcast presenters, podcast shows, and just combining all of the knowledge and all of the fast-moving industry, really, connecting everybody. They've been great with us. We're actually excited to announce that we shall be advertised in the next issue, which will be the 7th issue. It's a bi-monthly magazine. They just did their first year, 6 magazines went out last year. They had Spotify and Acast on board as sponsors. They've just announced they've got Audible, as well as the print copies are going to be boosted up to 40,000 copies that are going to go out in the Sunday Times. So really exciting times for Pod Bible. So yeah, that issue will be, the 7th issue is released on the 2nd of February, I believe, Sunday the 2nd of February in the Sunday Times. That's the issue that we will begin our podcast life in. You can find us in there, so check it out. I think this episode, as recording release dates, I think it goes out on the Monday preceding, the 27th. So yeah, exciting times. And for podcasters, because, you know, having a hub and a central kind of magazine information base to find new podcasts and discover different things is going to be really exciting, and they've been really helpful to us here at Chew the Chat, and we've got exciting news to announce regarding Pod Bible in the coming episodes. So yeah, keep your eye out for that. Give those guys some support. It's going to be exciting. They're really going to help galvanise this podcast community and shed some light on some exciting new stuff for everybody. So fantastic. They're not sponsors, guys, but they've been really helpful, like I say, so that's really cool. So check them out. You can find them at podbiblemag.com. There'll be a link in the show notes. So that's it from us. Next episode will be part 2 with Matthew Frost. And it gets a bit crazy, guys. We've got some stabbings, we've got some shootings, we've got the goat boy. We've got some crazy things on the way. But more than anything, we've got a real story that's inspiring. So check it out. Nice one, guys. See you next time. Peace.